I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, August the 4th, brought to you in part by Toromox by Norbrook. New Toromox injectable solution is the first generic cydectin. As a producer, you can expect the same weight gain advantage that you're used to with cydectin, but now at a lower cost. For more information, go to norbrook.com. $4 calves. Seems like just a few months ago, and indeed it was just a few months ago, that I was projecting $3 calves in our promises made, promises delivered. But indeed we hit $4 calves on Thursday. It happened at the Video Royale at Winnemucca on Superior Livestock Auction. You guys think, oh, Corbett ain't going to talk about Superior Livestock Auction. I indeed am going to talk about Superior Livestock Auction. It's the largest commercial video cattle auction in the world. And don't play favorites here on the Feeder Flash. We talk about the markets. We talk about all the markets. But they had 180,000 offered on the Video Royale this year. And we thought it was possible maybe, and it just kept creeping a little bit closer. And it's the first time they've really had or anybody's had a really big offering of fancy fall delivery calves, and it indeed happened. It kept creeping up into the high $3 ranges on these light calves, and then all of a sudden you had a perfect storm. You had some programmed cattle with outstanding quality with all the bells and whistles. You had the king of the auctioneers, Ralph Wade, selling, and it indeed happened. It was the Moore Ranches out of Unity, Oregon. They sell 112 head of home-raised weaned steer calves. They're colored up a little bit. That ain't gonna hurt them none. Red and black Angus there. All the bells and whistles. Every one that you can check. NHTC, Verified Natural, Veg Fed. They were even 44 Farms influenced, which is gonna help them if you guys know about that program. But just an unbelievable set of calves there. Weaned on grass and hay, that makes a big difference too. Coming in late October, base weight 415 pounds, bring $4 a pound. Wow. I tell you what, we're having good times right now, and things are continue to look up. And I think if it should start to rain again in some spots, we've had some big rains in some spots in the Midwest here in just the last few days. If we should get some rain in some areas that could do some fall grazing, if we could get some wheat pasture in the ground and get it up good for some grazing on some wheat pasture in the southern plains, these calves got a lot of legs to go, guys. And I mean, we've been talking about yearlings here all summer, but we got the calves coming, and even though they're costing a big price at a lower weight, you know, you still think you can get up there and make those cattle work, but you're pushing the limits right there. And the bad thing is the fat cattle market, and we know, and there's been a lot of talk. Earlier this week, I talked to you about the Packers playbook that showed up in some hands and got reported there, and we know how bad they're putting the screws to us. We know the different ploys that they're using to try to keep the market under wraps. They only buy the plainest cattle, especially in the southern plains, only buy the plainest cattle, cash, negotiated cash, FOB, the feed yard there. Anything better than that they need to pay a little more for to get them bought. They put kickers on them. They do different things, buy cattle delivered, do different things to keep them out of the averages and keep them away from their base prices that they have to pay for that mountain of cattle, which has been the formula. And we've painted ourselves as an industry into this corner. All of your big corporate feeders, of course, they kind of had to be. Even the big family feeding operations have had to join in to one of these formula negotiations, because they'll leave them stuck with the cattle whenever the supplies are heavy. But right now the supplies are extremely tight. It's pulling the covers back on everything that they do. And you just got to hand it to the few guys, especially in the northern plains, that sell their cattle negotiated without any kind of kickers, without any kind of grid or anything like that. They're establishing the market for the entire industry, and it's just a small group of guys, and I think they continue to be trail busters, and they're the salt of the earth kind of guys, and I appreciate that they continue to do that. But how much longer can they continue to do that? Like I said, there's been a lot of talk about this Packers playbook. We don't know for sure if that's if it came directly from a Packer, or if it was procurement instructions to their buyers. It came from the Ag Center there, the cattle report, and I look at that report from time to time. He's not like the feeder flash. I mean, he doesn't go out on limbs and things like that. He usually sticks pretty close to the vest and writes very eloquently. The fact that he put it, or she, I don't know who does that report, the fact that they put it in their report, that lends to me that it does have some validity to it. But I don't think we've heard the last of that Packers playbook. I want to talk to you guys and ask you for prayers, and to keep some people in your thoughts as you go on through this week. In South Central Missouri, we know how dry it's been. We've talked about it several times. We've talked about a lot of big special sales that they've had in South Central or Central Missouri as a whole, because that's a big place where they run a lot of cattle there, guys, and it just happened that way that they didn't get any rain all spring and mostly all summer until just here recently, until a couple of weeks ago. But South Central Missouri, 3/4 of an inch of rain from May up through the middle of July, and then 17 inches of it since then. So now they're getting too much, but it's not going to bring the grass back right away, and they're still in tough times there. But in the last few days, South Central Missouri, they've had an enormous amount of lightning with these storms that's been coming through and dumping all this rain. And I want to tell you about a small processing facility in Steelville, Missouri. That would be south of Jeff City there. And it's Mary's Valley Processing, owned by Wayne and Bobby Reed. I met Wayne Reed at a talk that I did not too awful long ago. I remember him. He was a nice guy. Loved this industry. Was trying to make a difference by opening his own plant and doing a heck of a job there, from what everybody says, doing a top-notch job processing cattle there for local people, and producing locally fed, locally processed, American-made beef right there. But on Wednesday night, the lightning struck his plant, burned it completely to the ground, and along with it, at least 2 counties worth of 4-H and FFA steers that they've had at local fairs there. And those cattle were waiting to be processed there. Lost 70 steers and 30 hogs that were raised by local youth there in South Central Missouri. Bobby and Wayne are devastated. It's a terrible, terrible disaster there. And be thinking about those people and everything that's weighing on them right there as they go through this disaster, and just we just have to appreciate how much that does happen right, and we don't have these big natural disasters like that all the time. But whenever we do, gosh almighty, it's a bad deal, and we really feel for them and the kids that had their their cattle and hogs in there, and they know about it, and it's really a devastating thing. Talk about your Punchy Pick. We just awarded the Punchy Pick winner early this week, and it was another great contest. We're really enjoying this contest. We hope you guys are enjoying it, sending your Punchy Picks in, looking at the Punchy Pick winners every month. And if you snap a Punchy Pick, just something cowboy that you see out there that happens in your day-to-day routines, send it to punchy@nationalbeefwire.com. Like I said, every month the winner is going to get a ton of swag from Beaver Feed in Beaver, Oklahoma. I'm talking about some really nice sweatshirts and caps and different things like that. Also from Beaver County Stockyards that we talk about all the time. But the main prize every month on that Punchy Pick of the Month award is the case of Fairpiece that you get. And this revolutionary product is, if it hasn't already, it is changing the industry, guys. I've got a video coming up at the conclusion of this report that I want you guys to listen to and watch. It's from Dr. Jennifer Poindexter, a veterinarian there, and it's an amazing video. So stay tuned after this report and watch that video from Fairpiece. Talk about your board on Thursday. August live cattle futures, they kind of resurrected after that bad economy news and getting downgraded on our credit rating there. But the technical guys told us that we were due for some gains in here just from the squiggly lines on the graph there, which I don't totally understand. Of course, I studied it moons ago whenever I was in college, but I don't remember exactly how all the head and shoulders and all the gaps work. But I'll leave that up to the technical analysts, and they said that we're due for some gains here, and it came right back and gained right back on Thursday. August live cattle futures up 47 cents at 178.50. October up 80 cents at 181.30. Your back months were all up from as little as just 12 cents, and that was the farthest out traded month, to as much as $1.17 higher. August feeder cattle were due to gain some. Corn's been down every day this week, guys. And August feeder cattle up $1.12 at 247.95. September up 155 at 251.65. Your back months on feeder cattle up 87 to up $1.57. Big gains in a feeder cattle pit. How about new crop December corn down another 7 cents now, back under $5 a bushel, making people feel a lot more comfortable, especially those that didn't get their corn bought when it was back this cheap several weeks ago. But closing regular trading on Thursday at 493.5. November new crop beans were up 4 cents at 13.25 cents a bushel. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for September down 19.5. It has plunged here late at 767.5. Talk about your fat cattle trade. There we wound up Thursday and we didn't see much trade. I do know that there was more trade after the 2 o'clock deadline to turn it in for mandatory price reporting, and that reminds me, with the Packers playbook being unveiled this week and people talking about how they're using the different tactics and rules in mandatory price reporting, it's got a lot of people feeling, and me alike, that maybe we don't need to reauthorize mandatory price reporting. The Packers are using it against us. They know exactly how that database works. They know where they can stick cattle, still get legally away with stick them in holes that don't affect the weighted average that makes up the base price for all the cattle that they buy through the formula, which is over 85% of them, guys. So why do we need to do that? We can use different methods. We can use, I've got a couple of group texts that have better information on the voluntary side of your cash prices each week than what we see from USDA. And the Fed Cattle Exchange, it keeps gaining footing, and they keep selling a few more cattle all the time, but having more cattle offered on there. And that's the only thing that's holding the Fed Cattle Exchange back, is the lack of volume. And if more people would consign their cash cattle to the Fed Cattle Exchange, it would force packers to participate more in something competitive that brings about price discovery. But Iowa sold 1,600 head that were confirmed before 2 o'clock on Thursday, 3,200 head for the week. Your live price was 188, and I know of significantly more cattle that traded at 188 and 294 dressed. I didn't hear any better than that. Nebraska only 300 head and only 500 head for the week. And now the live price that we saw come through mandatory price reporting in Nebraska was 190. I know that we sold cattle at 188 and a long string of cattle at 189 delivered, that the Packers did that just to keep them out of the weighted average there. But in the Northern Plains, both of those quotes and that dress quote there is steady to strong. I don't know that you can call it any higher. It hasn't left the boundaries of last week's price range, but still at least steady to strong there, and we'll see how things go on Friday. In the Southern Plains, we haven't sold anything yet. So we don't know where it's going to be. We don't know if we're going to still be stuck at 178, 179, or if they're going to get back to 180, maybe up to 181 or 2. Just have to stay tuned on Friday to see what happens in the Southern Plains. And likely it's going to be late Friday, so we won't really know anything till Monday. Talk about your box beef cutout values. They were mixed. I do believe we found a bottom. It's just over $300 on choice carcasses or choice cutouts there. But you know, they've kind of hit a little bit of resistance here, trying to get going back to gain any more ground. But choice cuts on Thursday afternoon were down $1.17 at 302.01. Selects were up 84 cents at 278.31. Your slaughter, you know, it always starts out gangbusters early in the week and then starts to wane off. Well, it's kind of started doing that this week too. And how long the Packers continue to run with light kills and still come up with enough product to fill their obligations, I don't know. I mean, we're getting kind of at a standoff right now, where how long can they keep the kills down to keep from you know, pushing the price any higher with still fulfilling their obligations. I don't know. We would have to be getting close. But through the first 4 days of the week, 494,000 cattle harvested. That's 5,000 less than last week, 2,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Inherit Select. Pair your intuition with genetic testing to select the heifers best aligned with your resources and goals. For more information, go to inheritprogress.com. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction based off of a cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states, and it's always up to date and current. This is through Thursday's sales and then coming to you late Thursday night at 244.35. That was down a little bit more, down 22 cents. It was up the first 3 days of the week, finally caught up, down pretty good after Wednesday's trade, and then down 22 cents after Thursday. But talk about your big sales that happened on Thursday. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas had a good run, 4,400 head. Market was good, market was higher. Feeder steers, 7 to 8 weight feeder steers were steady to $3 higher. 850 to 950 pound steers, $5 to $7 higher. I have to commend the Federal State Market Reporter there. They did a good job of explaining the market situation on the government market report there. But feeder heifers, 750 to 850 pounds, sold steady to $2 higher, with a large supply of spade heifers, over 900 spade heifers in the offering. Those spade heifers were bringing a $2 to $3 premium over those that were not. Winter livestock in Pratt, Kansas. I've told you guys, and I was just up there last week, the extreme drought that they had for nearly 2 years there in south central Kansas, be west of where the Flint Hills are, and they have had some relief here in the last few weeks. But tell you what, people couldn't run any cattle in that part of the country, and they don't have much to sell. Told you Dodge City just had a little over 200 on Wednesday. Pratt did have 1,000 cattle on Thursday, but not enough to really test the market. They did say that there was a higher undertone evident there. But I'm going to give you several individual quotes from all around the country. How about Paris, Kentucky stockyards? 84 steers weighed 774 and bring 254 standing in the ring in Paris, Kentucky. How about Mitchell Livestock Marketing in Mitchell, South Dakota? They sell 55 big steers, weigh 1083 at 235. That's a big quote. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock had an individual quote there. 131 steers weighed 823 at 257 and a quarter. And I want to give you your National Beef Wire Stickout Sale of the day, which was Farmers and Ranchers Livestock, and give you the quotes on several weights here. You look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central, you see 570 head of 7-weight steers. They averaged 753 with a weighted average price of 260, 276. 1,546 head of 8-weight steers, averaged 850 pounds right on the button, weighted average price $250.47, and 380 head of 9-weight steers, averaged 918 at $248.08. On the heifers, 220 head of 6-weight heifers, averaged 658 with a weighted average price of $254.28. 188 head of 7-weight heifers, averaged 772, weighted average price $243.32, and 750 head of 8-weight heifers, averaged 847, average price $238.98. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Thursday, your Macrison No BS top quote for the day, come out of Valentine Livestock Auction in Valentine, Nebraska. It was the Pass Ranch steers, black steers, 180 of them, weighed 888 at 278.25. Be sure and watch this video from Fairpiece.
So my dad was a veterinarian growing up, always been on the ranch here. I love the ranch life and I like the medicine. Having my own herd, my clients come in and say, I want to do what you do. Or they'll see something in a magazine, what do you think of this? Figuring I've already probably played with it on my own herd. So I saw Fairpiece and thought, well, this is going to be foo-foo dust. But I will try it because I know some clients are going to say, what do you think of it? Have you tried it? So I weaned my first set of calves and I did the whole herd, 100% of them. And we were working cattle and I walked out. They'd been weaned the day before. We process them the morning after we get them home. We haul them home from about 20 miles away. So after I'd done the first group of calves that I had processed before, the steers, they were all laying down or they were at the bunk. And I'm like, oh, you guys got to come out and see this. And so they all come out and they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. But we'd done the whole group, everybody was quiet, and I'm like, okay, so we need to split this baby up. And so the second time we weaned, I did my steers with the Fairpiece, and I skipped the heifers. And so I was kind of monitoring. First day, the steers cleaned the bunk. The heifers, I bet they ate 25%. We had to scatter it through the bunk, fluff it up. They didn't even eat enough to refill the bunk. The next day, and I kind of watched to see the heifers definitely never settled down. They were in and out, they were circling, they didn't care to eat. The steers, they'd go to the water tank, they would drink. They didn't just leave because everybody else leave. They meandered around the pen by themselves. They weren't circling. And the appetite was so much better. And so then I saw this on the next day and I videoed that I pulled up to the bunk and all the steers were at the bunk. 6 of the heifers were at the bunk, and when he pulled up with the feed wagon, all the heifers ran to the back side of the pen who had not received the Fairpiece, and the steers backed up about 12 feet, and as soon as he had moved on down the bunk, they were back at the bunk eating. And I'm like, this is really, really cool. Kind of curious to see what would happen if I treated the calves while we were processing them with Fairpiece and see when we got to the summer pasture whether they would be as reactive up there as if I had not used the Fairpiece. And so we hauled them, and the calves, they pair up better, they're more calm, they aren't circling pens when they can't find mama, they're quieter, you hardly hear the calves bawl at all, a little bit of talking, but it seems like when I have done that, when mama comes or the cows start to cry, the calves hear her and they pair up easier. I did have a client who, after using it last year, thinks everything that he buys will receive it, which I think it's a no-brainer.